Inflation is everywhere. It's on everybody's mind, it's in the news, and it's impacting all of our day-to-day decisions. Today, let's talk about a few things you need to consider during a high inflationary times, and maybe some things you can do to help protect yourself against future inflation. The first thing to consider is to reassess your day-to-day living expenses. Housing costs more, food costs more, putting gas in your car costs more. And then obviously there's trade-offs when it comes between these two. We never want to make short-term decisions at the expense of long-term decisions, but we know there's a balancing act between the two. Spend more today or save more for tomorrow. It's a constant battle that's often can be kind of a pull and tug as you go through your life, adding a little bit more savings when you can, maybe pulling back a little bit from savings when times are tough. But if you can make decisions that don't lead you into further debt or kind of compounding the problem during a high inflationary time, can help save things going forward that give you a better chance of success for future long-term goals. One example of this is increasing your emergency fund. We have an emergency fund for those unexpected and immediate expenses that are needed, and things cost more, and we need to plan accordingly. So maybe your 6 to 12 months worth of expenses now in a high inflationary time will only cover 90% of what you thought it would. And so adding to or filling up that bucket can be a great thing to do during an inflationary time to be ready for higher costs. Costs more to replace a car, costs more to replace a house or an AC unit or even a medical situation. So really looking at your emergency fund during these times and having, they're tough conversations. I've had them with my family, had them with a lot of clients, that sometimes we need to make trade-offs about maybe trimming back the short term to help kind of keep things on track for the long term. If you're working, your wages keeping up with inflation is something that's definitely of a concern to you. It's a concern to all of us. And being able to keep up with the cost of living and have our wages increase is a difficult conversation we often need to have with our employer. Do our wages need to increase? Do we need to look at changing jobs? Or maybe do we need to look at adding some credentials to find a higher paying job? Now, none of these are easy. Obviously, inflation puts stresses on all parts of a budget and is painful for you and everybody. And being able to work through that, because often during times of high inflation, businesses are looking to maybe make cutbacks themselves to try to increase their profits as well. And so there's kind of a push and pull between those two, but looking at increasing your credentials, adding a different job, or at least at the bare minimum having that conversation with your employer so that wages can keep up with the cost of living. The third and last thing to consider is your asset allocation. When it comes to your investment plan, maybe inflation is taking a toll on different parts of your investments differently than others. This is the allocation between stocks, bonds, international versus being in the US, and on and on. And looking how each of these are going to be impacted by inflation is a big conversation you should be having right now. One area I want to talk specifically about is cash management. We all know that for the last 10, 15 years, our checking and savings account really haven't paid much. We haven't been able to get much of a return. But as inflation's going up, these cash dollars are losing out in purchasing power each year to inflation. However, rates have started to come up in various areas, such as CDs or treasuries, that may be able to allow you to get a little bit of additional return. So one thing we're encouraging our clients to do right now, and we're having this conversation, is to relook at our cash allocation. So this is those short-term money that we need to keep protected to the extent that we can, as well as looking to get a little bit more of a return. So you can use things like brokered CDs, treasuries, and even money market funds. All these have started to pay a little bit more than they have historically, and it's a good thing to kind of reassess what your cash is doing right now. Because if it's just sitting in a checking and savings account earning no interest, every year you're losing more and more out to inflation. Inflation impacts just about every aspect of your and my life. And looking at what our expenses are, what our wages and income are, as well as what our asset allocations are on our portfolio, can help make some decisions today that will potentially set you up for a better future. But each area of your financial life needs to be reevaluated in a rising inflationary period. And taking time to step through each one of these areas and make sure you're making conscious and worthwhile decisions can potentially maybe kind of offset some of the pain that inflation brings around. If you have specific questions or would like to reach out, send me an email, garrett@ascendinvestment.com. Love to talk to you. Good luck.